An after baseball question, fellas. If you had to pick one dude to realize their potential this season, would you choose Marvin Jones Jr., Hakeem Williams, or somebody else? Happy birthday, Jeff. Thank you, Optimus Climb. I appreciate the question and the birthday wishes. Actually, it's a really good question because I'm not real sure what I'm going to say. Normally, I'm a quick to answer guy. I'm going to tell you, Hakeem. I want Hakeem to be the future NFL wide receiver I believe him to be. That his physical prowess suggests he should be. His fleeting moments in which you recognize the whole package of what's possible for him as a wide receiver. Because in various ways, we've seen it. He can block, and he's taken to blocking, and he's physical enough. He's a big wide receiver, so he likes to block even. And that is what allowed the coaching staff to begin to trust him more prior to the injury. I think he was on the verge of taking off. We saw the really elite athleticism I'm not sure we realized he had. I understand he was a 5-star recruit, but some of what we saw with him when he first got here we thought was the byproduct of just being bigger than everybody else, right? When you first saw him, you thought, well, who the hell in high school is covering that guy? He's a monster, and he's just going to out-jump or push off or do whatever he has to do, utilize his body to win one-on-one battles. But then you saw him run away from people a few times, in particular the one touchdown run in the quick game. And so it's all there. If he's fully realized, if all of the potential happens, well, then you are set at wide receiver, because I think you then have two legitimate big-time college wide receivers, and everybody else can fill in the various roles. Some of those are gimmicky roles. Some of those are screens. Some of those are any number of things. Then you're going to be all right. So I'll say Hakeem Williams. Do you share that, or do you say Marvin Jones Jr.? I know we're excited about his potential too, but I feel like you've got the potential for one really, really good defensive end that is cemented. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's already going to be good. And you've got at least average on the other side. So you've probably got enough there to do well defensively, whether he realizes his full potential or not.
Yeah, there are some other candidates that I think I land on Hakeem, but the other candidates are Marvin Jones, sure. Darrell Jackson. What if Darrell Jackson lived up to every bit of his potential this season? I mean, that would be so destructive for opposing offensive lines, and it would force offensive lines and schemes to allow either a Josh Farmer, a Patrick Payton, or a Marvin Jones Jr., or Sione Lolohea, any one of those players to be in a one-on-one situation. So if Darrell Jackson lived up to every bit of his potential, you're talking about a game record, and I think that takes points off the board immediately. But the problem is on offense, you're scarce at wide receiver. So I do believe that is where Hakeem is probably the right answer. Also, one other guy I would consider, Lucas Simmons. What if Lucas Simmons lived up to every bit of his potential this season? That would drastically change the way you shuffle the offensive line. I think it would drastically change the things you could do on offense. Now, that's a wild card. He's still in development, and he should be. He's a younger player. But if you're talking about what is the height of what is the highest level of potential of anybody on the roster relative to their position, Lucas Simmons is in that conversation about being a lockdown tackle. Again, though, I will swing back and say that because you're light at wide receiver, if Hakeem became that dude, man, that would change your offense. It would become so much more dynamic immediately, and you have solutions at those other positions that you don't at wide receiver.
And I think he might. I don't think I'm as down on Hakeem as our fan base is. And when I say that, I don't think that they hate him, and I don't think they think he stinks. I think they were disappointed by the numbers or the inconsistencies in the spring that were reported, and those were not reported erroneously. Those were not things that didn't happen. That did happen. But I think the cause of those inconsistencies are not replicated week to week in the college football season. So I believe he has a chance to have and find the kind of consistency and confidence he needs to become fully realized sooner than a lot of people based on the spring. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Where I would be somewhat surprised, and you picked a good one in Lucas Simmons. You went off the grid there. You know I'm a big Lucas Simmons guy, and I've talked about how I don't see why he can't play sooner rather than later because he had that big base. And you know how I feel about the big asses necessary to play in the trenches. And he has great feet. He has the base and the trunk necessary. He just didn't have upper body size to go along with the 6'8", 3+ overall makeup, 300 plus makeup. The reason he's still a work in progress is because he missed an entire season. He was on the roster, but he couldn't play. And had that not happened, we would be talking about him as, in my mind, a guaranteed starter. He is a prototypical left tackle in the National Football League. He has the length. He's got the footwork. He's got the ability to bend at that size. Let's just hope he gets there. Let's just hope it happens to where this offseason has been very fruitful and he's been able to put in the work. Because I agree with you. At that point, man, you have him and Darius Washington as your tackles. You brought in two monsters in the interior that are extremely athletic for their size. And they're going to run the ball by punishing people with those two. And then you have a technically sound, very smart center who's a little undersized but makes up for it with the technical skill set that I alluded to. So all of a sudden that becomes a strength. If that's a strength and you're running the football, which is what you know Mike wants to do, you then utilize the play action that we've talked about time and again with the speed on the outside and the big arm of the quarterback you brought in. It would have been worth noting that if we were going to debate this a little bit with some of the names that were mentioned in the question, that perhaps we should just say DJ. Because if he reaches his full potential, then the most important position on the field is a player having incredible tools and they're becoming fully realized, which is for him an NFL arm and body type, which would then change who you are.
It would, and this is going to sound like a slight, and I don't mean it. I just think he's closer to what his potential is already. He's got tools, but, I mean, the consistency has not shown at any point in his collegiate career.
That's true.
You can now, if it happens here, like I've said before, then Mike Norvell and Tony Tokarz will be known as quarterback whisperers they'll be household quarterback whisperers in the game of football. Tony Tokar's name would be the one that benefits more because most people know Mike Norvell at this point. If Alabama calls coming, your name is out there and people recognize what a badass you are. But if Tokarz pulls this one off and DJU looks like not a different player, but a step up from what he's been at Clemson and what he's been at Oregon State under a head coach, mind you, Jonathan Smith, who is well loved. If this guy is another success story to go along with a Jordan Travis success story, Norvell gets credit as well, but Tokar's star would be on the rise in a whole new way. And it might happen. I don't put it past him. What Jordan Travis did to improve over a few year span was remarkable. Maybe they got some secret sauce here. Maybe it's a little bit of the player and a little bit of the coach.
Well, I think Tony's an up-and-coming star. I already believe that. I think Mike Norvell is a great offensive mind who puts his quarterbacks in a good position to succeed time and time again. Wouldn't be surprising to see a kid who's played that much football take a big step forward. You're right. His skill set may be limited to the point where he's always going to be somewhat inaccurate. I mean, that's a criticism. Let's just say it. He's somewhat inaccurate. And that's, that's fine to say. But if you see that tick upwards a couple of completion percentage points into the realm of, say, 58, 59, anywhere close to 60%, coupled with the big playability down the field and the willingness to really take chances down the field. I love offenses that do that. I loved that about Jameis Winston. It was that Jameis was going to challenge you. You had to guard every inch of the field because he was going to take chances down the field and trust his guys. Now, there is no Kelvin Benjamin here. And it's easy to trust some, superstars. Rashad Green was the most fluid route runner we'd seen in eons, and what he did after the catch was plus. And then you had a monster that you can't replicate. I mean, who the hell is out here looking like Kelvin Benjamin in college football? So became a little bit easier to challenge you down the field.
It's just remarkable, though, his arm strength, and we all know that, and we've documented that. But it does change things. It's almost like Little League, or when you were in travel ball. For those of you that play travel ball, at the end of the game, a key situation, there's one out, runner on third, or maybe nobody out. And what is the outfield positioning in that situation? Only go as far back as you can make a throw to home plate in a reasonable fashion. DJ would be standing at the wall in that example.
Oh, sure. Yeah, speaking of the aforementioned Dave Parker earlier in the show.
Or Clemente, since it's Pittsburgh Pirates Day for you, the famous clip of him throwing it from the wall to home plate on the fly. What he can do to unlock different parts of the field, he can be at the numbers on the right side of the field and complete it 50 yards on the other number on a rope. It's just what you can do with either misdirection plays or deep shots. He does unlock different parts of the real estate of football. My question is, when we get to, say, a 5-game sample size and we look at Pro Football Focus for the spray chart, and that's what it's good for, I think, is documenting that stuff rather than grading. Mm-hmm. Give me the empirical evidence. When you take a look at DJU's spray chart 5 games into the season, what does it look like? The tic-tac-toe board. Where are we throwing the ball? Is it all at the line of scrimmage and deep? Is he working in the middle of the field? What does Mike Norvell, what does Tony Tokars think it could be his strength, and how does it fit into the offense? We know there's going to be deep shots, but what's the general picture going to look like when it's all said and done?